Hi, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joybaking.com. Today we're going to make raspberry brownies, and we make these brownies by just swirling raspberry jam through our batter. So to start, preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 180 degrees Celsius, and you will need an 8-inch square, 20 centimeter baking pan, and then just either butter it, or I'm just spraying it with a non-stick spray. And then just line the bottom of the pan with the square of parchment paper. And that's that. So we'll start the batter. What's great about brownies is it's just made in one bowl. Just kind of stir everything together and you're done. It's really fast. So in a heat-proof bowl, place 5 ounces, that's 150 grams of dark chocolate. Now, the flavor of your brownies is going to depend on your type of dark chocolate you use. So if you want to use one that you really enjoy eating just on its own. Now, I like to use a semi-sweet chocolate, and a lot of brands of chocolate bars that you're buying these days, they're not labeling them semi-sweet or bittersweet. What they're doing is giving you a percentage. And I find for this brownie, I like to use a semi-sweet, and a semi-sweet would be labeled anywhere between, say, 54% up to 60%. Above that, it starts to get more bitter, which you can use if you want. So you need the chocolate, coarsely chop it, and put it in your heat-proof bowl, because we're going to melt the chocolate, along with ½ a cup, 113 grams, butter, and then just, cut it into your butter into small pieces so it melts faster. I like to use an unsalted. You can use a salted if you prefer. So have your water simmering, and then we're just going to melt these two together just until it's nice and smooth. Okay, that looks good. So just get off the heat. A good stir. And so next, what we're going to do, I'll just scrape that off there. I don't want to waste any of that nice chocolate. I'm going to switch over to a wire whisk here. I'm going to add 1 cup, 200 grams of granulated white sugar, and just whisk that in. And then, just to kind of deepen that chocolate flavor, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons, about 15 grams of unsweetened cocoa powder. Now, you can use either the just regular unsweetened or the Dutch process, either one. I'm sifting it because cocoa powder tends to have lumps. So just to get rid of all those. And whisk that in. There's no real special technique for brownies. That's what's so great. You're just mixing everything together. So now we're going to add 1 teaspoon of pure vanilla extract, and then 3 large eggs. We're going to add them one at a time. Try to have them at room temperature. So just whisk them in. You could use your rubber spatula, but I find a whisk is a good thing to use here. And one. Okay, just make sure those eggs are really mixed in there. That looks good. And then add a little flour, 3/4 of a cup, 95 grams of just all-purpose flour. You may know that as plain flour. And just a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. If you used salted butter, you could probably just leave that salt out. Now, if you wanted to add like a little crunch here, You could add like maybe a half a cup, 90 grams of dark chocolate chips. You notice we're not adding any baking powder or baking soda because we don't want very much rise here, these brownies. So that's it. I mean, if you have a chocolate craving, this is a fast thing to make. Satisfy it. Okay. And then just smooth it out. You can use the back of a spoon. I'm using an offset spatula, either one. This is actually just the brownie recipe on the site. And then we're going to top it with our raspberry jam. So you could really do this with any brownie batter, what we're going to do here. So now, raspberry jam. You will need about 3/4 of a cup, which is 225 grams. You can use homemade. There is a recipe along with the video on the site to make a raspberry jam. If you're making it, I would make it like the day before you're going to make the brownies, so just so it has time to firm up overnight in the fridge. If you use store-bought, sometimes that's really thick, so just give it a really good stir. And you can use, I'm using jam with seeds. You could use seedless if you want. Now, you can just place dollops with a spoon on the brownie batter. I like to put it in a disposable pastry bag. Makes it really easy. You could just use even like just a regular plastic bag and just cut off the end. So just put it in there and then give your end a twist and just use your scissors. I'm not using the tip. You don't really need one. It's not fancy here. And then what I do is place dollops, 4 across, 4 rows down. So 16 little dollops. I mean, it's not critical here because we're going to swirl it. You could use more or less raspberry jam depending on how strong you want that raspberry to be. It's a really nice flavor combination, the chocolate and raspberry. It always goes well together because the tanginess of the raspberries really offsets that deep chocolate flavor. I just love it. And it's a great way to use a homemade raspberry jam. So now we want to swirl it. You could just use a knife, or I'm using this little toothpick here. Nothing fancy, you just want to kind of swirl it through instead of having big blobs. So just kind of break it up like so. Oh, that looks good. So now we're going to put them in the oven. I find in my oven this takes about 30 minutes. You want, when you take a toothpick and insert it into the center, you still don't put it into the jam, into the chocolate part. You still want some moist crumbs to be on your toothpick because you want the brownies to be nice and moist. So about 30 minutes. Okay, our raspberry brownies are now done. Now what you're looking for is when you test your brownies, you can see on this toothpick there's still quite a bit of crumbs. That way you'll have a really moist brownie. Now we want to let these cool and then sit at least 2-3 hours to firm up. And then you will find even when you cut them, they will be quite soft and cake-like. Personally, I like my brownies to be cold, and I like them kind of with a kind of fudgy texture. So what I did is I made a batch yesterday, and then I let them chill overnight in the fridge. And not only, as you can see, the texture is quite fudgy, what it also allows is time for the flavors to kind of soften and mingle and develop. And that's what I prefer doing. So I'll just give this a little taste. That's really nice. You have that really intense chocolate flavor, but the raspberry jam just kind of offsets, just goes so well together. So these will, if you store them in the fridge, probably 4 or 5 days, or you can even freeze them. So until next time, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joyofbaking.com.